Hello and welcome back to Snapping Towels. This is episode 12. I'm Cam Williams, joined by my partner, as always, Kyle Foote. Coach, how are you
What's
doing?
happening, brother? Good. Looks cold over there in that jacket.
Yeah,
Mid-April
it's
jacket.
uh, it's 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 a cold and rainy late night in Manhattan. I
Ooh.
believe I believe it's low 40s and raining hard out there.
No, sir. 75 and sunny every day. 365.
um, pretty fun weekend. Started off with a Duke UVA, what we thought would be a battle, and what was supposed to be Thursday night lax
Damn
under
it.
the lights was bumped to an early afternoon game due to storms in Charlottesville. But Duke brought the storm in the afternoon anyway.
Yeah, we kind of got stumped with this one. I thought it was going to be big time ball, uh, nail biter down to the end, but it seems to be this theme in the ACC where one team doesn't kind of show up and the other team takes complete advantage. But let's not say too much about one team not showing up. Mike Adler was a freaking animal in cage for Duke, and that really put a lot of pressure on Virginia's offensive players, causing them to, I think, overthink their shots in a lot of ways.
Career day for Adler. 20 saves. Virginia, as a result, shot the ball 21%, which is obviously never going to get it done. One thing to note, Matt Moore and Petey LaSala did play in this game, both dealing with injuries. Not sure if they were 100%.
It looked good.
Matt Moore looked like Matt Moore, in my opinion. But pretty incredible day from Adler.
He found the net a couple of times, but Brendan O'Neill has come into mid-season to late season form as we expected. It took him a little bit of a slow start. I think he passed the 50 goal mark in that game where he's hovering right around it. Maybe even got
he's
one
got
more.
48 right now.
48. Okay, so he's too short. But yeah, he's catching his dodges with steam and really going at the cage hard, both righty lefty, getting really creative with how he's putting the ball in the net. So I think if he keeps doing that, Duke's on this trend where we thought they were at the beginning of the year, being one of the top teams in the country, even though their record doesn't show it. I don't think any team would want to pull Duke in the first round of the tournament.
No, not at all. Duke sitting at 10-5, more than battle tested. As always, coming into form late April, early May. For Brendan O'Neill to come away with 4-4 and really look like everyone thought he would look like at this point in his career, huge deal for Duke. And also, what's really encouraging to see, you got Dyson Williams and our boy Reed Landon coming away with hat tricks.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things where you learn things in losses. And I think back when Loyola beat Duke, you saw a Reed Landing kind of show out in the fourth quarter where everyone kind of stopped playing except for Reed Landing and 91. I'm not sure if he made the box this week, forgot his name, but he was a third liner too that gets a little more burn. I think Reed Landing's taking a little more control of his own destiny, bearing three, shooting the ball. Yeah, I think he went 3 for 4, something like that. But he looks like a starting midfielder for Duke. And he, at the beginning of the year, he was on their complete bench.
Yeah, he was a bona fide third liner, and it's really great to see kids take advantage of opportunities. They were getting smoked by Loyola, throwing the third line in there because why not? And you got Reed Landon.
They just kept scoring. So they kept throwing him back in, and then now we've just seen him in the box scoring on the first or second line every week.
Yeah, he's tough to handle. He's a nice sized kid. He dodges hard. And he can bury the biscuit. Yeah, no, I like Reed Landon a lot. Reminds me a little bit of another midfielder we'll talk about later that's bursting onto the scene. But a very pedestrian day for UVA offensively, and also probably the worst we've seen Nunes play this in his young career, in his very promising young career. Matt Nunes in the cage for the Wahoos.
Yeah, he definitely wants some back. I mean, it's tough because a lot of Duke shots were hard to see. It was kind of defensively as a whole. Virginia was kind of stumped, which we don't see often. They really weren't pressing out on guys. They were getting kind of run at and then having to make decisions to go kind of late in the dodge, which caused for, wide open looks for Duke and step downs that Duke loves to hit. And Brendan O'Neill was a big body. I forget the name, but 39 for Virginia, the pole. He's a tall, lanky. I think he was a basketball recruit. They matched him up with O'Neal early, and it's just one of those tall, lanky bodies on a fire hydrant, strong based kid. I think Brendan O'Neal really liked that matchup, even though Virginia's pull was longer. I don't think it mattered at the end of the day. He's getting really crafty with how he's slipping them in the goal.
Yeah, 39 is Cole Kastner.
Yeah.
Often one of the main reasons many Division I coaches and commentators refer to Virginia's defense as Jurassic Park. He's absolutely massive, along with all their other polls. But yeah, a huge day for Duke, a massive win. I mean, this kind of catapults them back into the ACC conversation, definitely back into NCAA tournament territory. I think it's a big statement. Duke is still here. And, who better to talk about that than the star of the game, Mike Adler. So we're going to kick it to Mike Adler right now. He's been kind enough to join us for an interview. Joining us is grad senior goalkeeper for the Duke Blue Devils, All-American at that, Mike Adler. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. Big fan of the podcast.
Love to hear that.
love
to hear that. Mike's joining us off a career day, a huge win against the Virginia Cavaliers off 20 saves.
Kyle's breakout player of the week, Mike. I got nothing for you, but that's what you were. So
thanks, Kyle. The world.
Huge superlative. Yeah. So before we talk about this season, Mike, would love for you to just give our listeners like a little bit of background, tell us about yourself. How'd you start playing the game of lacrosse, and how'd you find yourself at Duke?
Yeah, for sure. Grew up in South Florida, which definitely isn't the biggest hotbed for lacrosse. Played baseball. My dad was a coach, but unfortunately my brother and I kind of quit baseball at the same time, just a little slow. Brother joined a league. And it was just like we had one local team, and I was like, you know what, like I'm over baseball. I'm going to join up as well. So joined the Broward Pirates, which was an absolutely electric group of guys. So much fun. And started out as midfielder for like one practice. And then they didn't have a goalie. So my brother was like, you better get in the goal. Didn't have a choice. So ended up in the goal. Like first couple games was just crying the whole game, getting peppered by shots. But it was a good time. Kind of fell in love with the game. But in the middle of that, like freshman year of high school / like end of middle school, I was so over lacrosse, and I just wanted to surf all day. And that became like my passion. So I would like skip a bunch of these fall lacrosse tournaments and like practices. It was pretty bad, but because I just like love surfing, and that's all I wanted to do. But got the start on the varsity team, which kind of re-inspired me to love the game. A little bit of a incident / injury, which kind of became, I guess I'm still kind of living in the shadow of that to this day. But yeah, and then kind of I could take you through the whole college process, which is 6 years and counting. So it's a little long if you want me to dive into that.
Would love to just hear some cliff notes about it for sure. Take us through it.
Yeah, so kind of had that injury during, it was early recruiting. So like all these goalies were getting picked up, and I'd go play these like just crappy lacrosse tournaments in Long Island when it's like 20 degrees and just be miserable wanting to go back to Fort Lauderdale. But like the guys like that I'm playing against, all the goalies and stuff like that, I was like, they're all going to big Division I schools, and I felt like I was like outplaying them, but wasn't really getting recruited at all. Was trying to go the Division III route. That wasn't working at all. Started applying to like College of Charleston and thinking I was just gonna like be a regular college student. And then actually an opposing coach of mine, Tony Seaman, who's kind of a legend in the game.
Tony Seaman, yeah, that's a name right there. Heck yeah, old Towson coach.
Yeah, exactly. He reached out to Coach Ray at St. Joe's. They kind of already had a goalie, but Coach Ray's like, yeah, if you want a spot, you got a spot. And had an epic time at St. Joe's, redshirted my freshman year. And then that COVID year, had 2 extra years, kind of weird. Went into the portal. JD reached out to me, had like the most awesome conversation with him. He's just such an interesting guy. And I was like, yeah, I'm over the portal. Like, I want to get this thing done. And ended up on Duke, had a great first year, met some amazing people. great season, bitter kind of end. But yeah, and then just enjoying this year.
Absolutely. Just going back, I know we jumped into the college career, but you said there's something kind of living in your shadow, kind of an injury that pushed you towards lacrosse a little more than surfing. I think I picked up on it. It was mentioned pretty much every broadcast last year. They'd be like, Mike Adler's not scared of this rubber. He got attacked by a shark and he's, in net. Like it's like any kind of contrast. But is that what you're referring to? And tell us a little bit about that, if that's what it was.
Yeah, it was that. I don't know if it brought me closer to the game of lacrosse, but it was just pretty funny. And last year was like every single time it seemed like it would be like Mike Adler, like
the shark guy.
And I was just like, oh no. But because it happened freshman year of high school, so pretty long ago. So I kind of like put it behind me. I thought like 5 years ago, but I guess not.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were there was like a tropical storm coming up the coast of Florida. My buddies and I got in the car, drove to this like famous surf spot in Florida, and surfing for like 4 hours. Last wave in, which is like always so typical. Like, all right, we're all gonna get my last wave. Yeah. Got the last wave, like 20 yards off the beach, getting back on my board. I just feel this shark bite me. Knew it was a shark. Kind of grabbed my foot, kind of tried to pull me under a bit. Ripped my foot out of its mouth. Like it did like a crazy kind of like tail whack. And I immediately just started paddling in, and my buddies were walking up the beach and I was yelling at them like, I just got bit by a shark. And like none of them believed me, obviously. And I'm like, the shore break's pretty big. It was solid waves. And I'm like hobbling up. I look down at my foot and like the blood is just like pulsing out with my adrenaline. And literally there was a guy who saw me, came down, and he's like, yeah, I'm a medic in the Green Berets. And I'm just like, perfect. This is sweet. He helped me up the beach, used my leash as a tourniquet, called the ambulance. My buddies came over. They were all freaked out. And yeah, they dropped me off at the hospital, and then they went back surfing the same spot, which was pretty funny.
Wow.
But we've had some interesting stories on snapping towels this year. None of them hold a candle to that. Thank you for bringing us to that day. How long were you out of the game due to this injury? Do you still surf? Like what's going on?
Yeah, I was out like 3 months, and it was right in the beginning of summer. So that okay. Was absolutely awful. And like, to bring it back to lacrosse, like that was at the time, like the huge time for like, especially a goalie to get recruited because of early recruiting. Like guys were committed in freshman year of high school, which was absurd to me. But yeah, I was out, got 50 stitches in my foot, tore all the tendons, and all of my toe tendons. And it was pretty miserable, but came out the other side and still surfing. Went to Indonesia a couple summers ago. Unfortunately, haven't been able to surf too much this year, but I'm definitely looking forward to get back into it, especially when this year's done.
So it kind of clamped from like over your toes. It didn't really get the Achilles heel area.
Yeah, it got like
that too.
Yeah, the side of my foot. So mostly just ripped up the toes. Thank God it didn't get the Achilles. That would have been miserable. Also, if I lost a foot, that would have probably been pretty miserable too.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now.
You never know, though. You never know. Talk to us a little bit about going from the NEC to the ACC and kind of what you see on a weekly basis as far as what the shooters are bringing, the differences, and the pace of overall the game.
Yeah. I'll say the NEC, like there was guys who could pull it, like who had like ACC, like speed. We had a couple heavy shooters at Joe's. And then the guys that we were playing against, some of them went pro. There were some good guys. I would say the biggest thing is the depth, though. There's just so many more. In the ACC, every guy that's on the field can bring the ball, put it exactly where they want to put it. So I would say just the depth, and then the ball speed was kind of the main factor. Everybody's like, oh, the shot speed, but I think it was the ball speed. It's like 3 passes and you're moving on your line, and then you gotta be ready for that shot. So I'd say it's the ball speed that really was the biggest difference. And like took me a while to catch up. Took me a while to just kind of get comfortable with the defense. But in the end, it wasn't like, it was definitely a jump, but not like the biggest thing ever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's expected. I mean, everyone can play ball at that level. So it's interesting. It's definitely, that's an interesting comment about the ball speed, because it definitely swings a little faster, which overall ramps up the pace of play. But yeah, I mean, shooters can shoot, and those guys are everywhere.
Exactly.
You know, Mike, a lot's been made of your face mask last week on social media. I'm sure you're aware, kind of blew up on Instagram, but it looked like the inside of your face mask is painted black. People were speculating it's so you can see the ball better. I'm sorry it seems like the secret's out, but I would love to just hear a little bit about that. Is it in fact so you can see the ball better?
Yeah, just like, I only do it with white face masks, and unfortunately we just keep getting helmets with white face masks. Last year I would just paint it with a Sharpie, and this year our equipment manager Jay Bissett kind of put some electrical tape in there and like cut it with an X-Acto knife. So we got it down to a science. But I will say, I don't think this is really a hot take, but the white ball just needs to go. It needs to get out of the college lacrosse game.
Interesting.
Just with like you playing like some of these bigger venues, and the background is like a gray huge stadium that sometimes is empty behind the goal, so you're just looking at nothing. And yeah, the white ball needs to go, and then I wouldn't do it. But the contrast is there, and I don't know, does it help, does it not help, whatever. I'm willing to kind of just take the risk.
No, I like it. I thought that was really cool, and that's an interesting point.
I've never Cam, go ahead.
I've never heard a goalie say that. I've never heard anybody say that. It would make sense for a goalie to say, let's get rid of the white ball. I mean, I can remember in college at times, like playing in the Carrier Dome, the place isn't packed. It's tough to see it against that backdrop. Tough to see anything in the dome, but especially with the silver stands. There was also another stadium in particular, Navy Marine Corps Stadium, had blue seats, but each seat had the seat number on it on this little silver circle. And there were 35,000 of these silver circles, and they all look like lacrosse balls. So that's interesting. Orange ball, you know.
Yeah, I was going to say the dome too, because that's an infamous spot to lose a ball in the depth of those gray bleachers. That kind of what you're referencing there?
Yeah, I mean, pre-game, I'm definitely not thinking, wow, there's so many blind spots, because that would be probably the
you're
worst
trying to
thing.
See it. Yeah.
But another bad one is Mikey Stadium at West Point. We used to play there in the fall at Joe's, and it was like a gray sky, like it'd always be 20 degrees, and then like that stadium is just gray, and it's pretty miserable. But I don't know. I don't think about it too much, just because it's a bad mindset to have. But
we're done talking about it.
Done talking about it, but it needs to change.
Going off that kind of I think it could have been a superstition. Do you have any superstitions that you bring with you to every stadium?
Nah, nothing too much. I'll get warmed up like kind of the same, but drink a coffee before the game. That kind of usually gets me jacked up and dialed. But in the beginning of my career, you'd kill yourself with these superstitions. You'd be like, all right, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to have it this way. And if you didn't get it that way, like you'd kind of be off. So like the best way is just to like not have any superstition. Drink a coffee, get a warm up in, get some shots, and then I'm ready to go.
Go play the game. Trust yourself, right?
Most kind of similar to practice, right? You know, you do it every day. Why not carry it into game day? Doesn't have to be too different. I actually remember my roommate was a goalie at Loyola, going back to the glare, and we had these white face masks, silver face masks, all these face masks, and he had them all our helmets just with the chrome face mask. Like he didn't want, because the white lines with the white ball made it hard for him to catch it. So I thought that was interesting. He just had a different helmet than everyone.
Yeah, I've never gotten more texts, Instagram, everything in my life than that helmet. I was like, it's not that big of a deal, but I guess some people like it. And like goalies are always like looking for that little edge. So my DMs were pretty funny with all these like
little goalie kids. That's awesome.
That's awesome. Mike, take us into the locker room. What's the hottest song in the locker room right now?
Ooh, good question. I don't know. It's a little divided. I'd say I'm like closest to the speaker, so I'll walk in there, and if there's not anything on, I'll just put my phone in. But then everybody complains about my music. But big into like Zach Bryan. That's been a hot one. But his songs are like pretty sad and mellow. So like you get like 3/4 of the team being like, change this right now. And then I'll just be like, all right, you put on music, and then they'll put on like some stuff that I don't know.
Couple Long Island kids come in and want 50 Cent and G Unit. That makes sense.
Exactly. The Long Island kids are the worst.
So what's the song kind of everyone starts bopping around for pregame that gets in the speakers? Maybe not like just chilling out, but something everyone gets riled up for, or a post-game win song that gets thrown on.
Yeah, pregame, I would say there's a song that our whole team loves. I don't even know if this is a name, but like Act a Fool, and whole team goes berserk. It's like a SoundCloud remix thing. And then postgame, I don't even know the song, but it's got like percussion instruments in it. It's like an EDM song, and Cam Muley, Nakai, and J-Rob all pretend they're like in a marching band. And after every game, they'll like march through the locker room, and everybody goes berserk, and it's the best thing ever. But,
sounds absolutely electric.
Nothing better than the locker room post game after a win. After a loss, it's a little different. But
yeah, I can imagine. This was sent in by a fan who wanted this question to be shot at you. Who would you rather storm the beaches of Normandy with, John Danowski or Matt Danowski, and why?
Wow. That's a good question. Both have their pros, both have their cons, I would say. The pros
age can't be a con.
I'd say JD. I love it. He's just fearless, like let's show up and let's just go. And he wouldn't put too much thought into it. And he's one of the most loyal people, or he's the most loyal person I've ever met. So he'd have your back. Maybe he's a little old to do like the mobility, but he's still got a lot in him. Then,
no ageism on snapping towels. No ageism.
True. So
no friendly fire with JD either.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to get into that, but Matt would be epic too. So both good ones.
That's awesome.
Cool. Before we wrap up, Mike, would love to just hear you talk a little bit about life after Duke. Are you gunning for the PLL? Is your brother providing valuable advice as to how to crack a PLL lineup at a specialist position? What are you thinking?
I'll start by saying my brother's no help. I don't want him to be helped, but no, to be honest, PLL is cool, or PLL is sick. Love what they're doing. Obviously love the game of lacrosse, want to play, but I know it's kind of like a cliche, typical answer, but just not really looking towards that at all right now. Just kind of focusing on this year. And I think if I do well this year, if our team does well, I think all that will kind of take care of it.
Yeah, make a run at it. Well, Mike, dude, this has been an incredible interview. We really appreciate you coming on midweek before a big weekend.
There we go. Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. That was sweet.
Mike, thanks so much. Best of luck the rest of the way, brother.
Thank you.
That was awesome. We asked, we kind of put him on the spot with a couple of those questions there, but we really appreciate Mike for sitting down with us and kind of letting us in his world and what it's like to be kind of a hot goaltender going into May is a crazy little insight that we got to hear on Snapping Towels. So cheers to Mike.
Cheers to Mike is right. Safe to say he will be a PLL goaltender in the near future. Pretty impressive, honestly, the goalies that the ACC has this year in Adler, Entenmann, Nunes, and Krieg. Insane top four. And Adler.
Pretty young too. I mean, Adler's a senior, but
yeah,
Nunes, Entenmann, and Krieg are all freshmen or sophomores. Yeah. But exciting.
Yeah, no, I think Adler's definitely making a case for an all ACC goaltender year.
I mean, even though Duke hasn't shown up every game, he has. Like
he really has. He's been phenomenal.
He hasn't been pulled ever. He really locks in, and I respect what he's doing in cage for the Blue Devils. It's something that Duke's goalie can they kind of some years play a two-headed dragon because they always have such a big, roster and goalies that are top recruits. So it's kind of cool to see Duke have a, veteran battle-tested keeper for a run at it. That's what you need.
A hot goalie. Anything can happen with a hot goalie, as we've said before.
Amen.
Another hot goalie playing for the Brown Bears. This kid takes up a ton of cage, makes a bunch of saves. Connor Terrio. He's kind of he's their energy on the defensive end right now. Brown is a lot better than we thought, Kyle.
Yeah, I don't want to get crazy on this game. But Brown
is good, and that's very clear. They're a good team.
They're a good team. We were high on them early. They did drop some games in the middle of the year. Their competition kind of settled down. I thought, they should have beat Carolina. That's evident now. See how the season's shaking out for both those teams. I think Brown's trended upwards. UNC's unfortunately hasn't trended up as much, but yeah, I think Brown's crowd was the difference. They had the band.
Hell of a day at Stevenson Field. Yeah, hell of a day at Stevenson Field. A lot of alumni in the stands. Saw some familiar faces. Watching on TV. Yale came out pretty sloppy. They had 6 turnovers in the first quarter. A turnover plagued first half, and Brown came out hot. I think they went up 3-1 right away. And what's really kind of fun about Brown right now is the emergence of their midfielders. We've liked Brown a little bit for most of the year. We've been kind of really loving their attack, their two-headed monster at attack, and Darian Cook and Antonelli.
Most definitely.
But they were missing Darian Cook, and their midfielders came out swinging. I mean, Ryan Ogevin has never seen a shot he doesn't like. He had 16 shots through 3 quarters. I didn't even count in the fourth quarter. 16 through 3 quarters. Never seen anything like that.
Honestly, a lot of them were good takes. It's kind of crazy.
They were. Some of them were honestly a little wild, but most of them were good takes.
Some kick saves were involved. Like, he was really keeping the Yale goalie on edge. Like, I was like, dude, this guy's just you're never Paquette, that's his name, Jared Paquette for Yale, the tender. He's great, but like you're never comfortable in net when the kid can just turn around and let it fly. It's not
he's letting it fly from all angles.
There's no scouting report on 4-2. Young Seabald is what I've been calling him. He's a little Max Seabald lookalike.
I agree. He does look like Seabald. Another midfielder that I'm extremely excited about. I don't think he's jumping off the screen to be anybody's, first team All-American midfielder, but I really like Jack Kelly. He's out of Indiana. He wears number 10 for Brown. Really nice sized kid, smooth and purposeful dodger who can shoot on the run. And the thing that I love about it, icing on the cake, is he dodges with his head up, right? He's always looking to get his teammates involved. Yeah, exactly.
And he can paint your fence.
He can dish. I love his game. I think he's a really nice piece for this Brown offense. A guy we didn't see early on in the year, and now he's getting his opportunity and he's crushing it.
They needed something to happen with that midfield. It was a little stale, and Brown from the first whistle, because they had a goal right off the bat in transition to make it 1-0, but they just look comfortable. And Yale does a great job about making teams uncomfortable with how they pressure. They're physical. That's one thing about this Yale team I've seen. They're very skilled. They got Brandow. They've got Fake, and they're still, just to me, on screen and on paper, a little undersized.
They're also a little bit young too.
Brandow's 5'5", I know, or 5'6".
Yeah, I think he's a little taller than 5'6", but
5'8", maybe.
But
under 6 foot.
Yeah, no, he's under 6 feet. But the Yale's also a little bit young.
Leo Johnson's under 6 feet.
Yeah, Leo Johnson's a small attackman, but they've got a few rookies playing on offense. One thing that I was a little bit concerned about with Yale is they were really struggling with the 10-man, and it seems like almost everyone runs a 10-man at some point in every game these days. Like, why is Yale struggling with it? I don't understand.
Especially if you're shown on tape to struggle with it.
Exactly.
I wouldn't expect that to be a theme from Yale. I think that's something that, didn't sneak up on them. Brown runs a 10-man all the time. So it's kind of alarming. Maybe they didn't take it as seriously as they will if they see Brown again. But Yeah, I think it's incredibly interesting how such a well-coached, disciplined team struggled in the clearing game. It's just, it adds to the four-headed monster they walked into on Saturday in Brown.
Yeah, and speaking of monstrous, Brown's transition game really woke up. It kind of felt like I was watching 2016, 2017 Brown. This kid, Colin Hart, with two massive goals in the third and fourth quarter, kind of channeling his inner Larkin Kemp and Alec Tullett. Really fun to watch. Fun to see Brown running in transition. I was pulling for the Bears. So it was fun to watch.
Yeah, and then Devin McClain did his thing. 4 goals, 4 and 2 with his running man out. That's, everyone had a big game if you were in brown and red. That's a fact. It was just, and it was tight. The first half was tight, and then Brown kept doing it, kept chipping away, and it was a little sloppy down the stretch.
Yeah, but for Brown to hang 20 on the Yale Bulldog team is a big statement. Another guy I want to mention, Trevor Glavin, filling in for Darian Cook. A fourth attackman coming in, putting in 2 and 2 against this Yale defense. 2 big goals. Much respect to a fourth attackman coming in and spelling a star attackman in Darian Cook and really showing up for the Brown Bears.
Yeah, that's how you take advantage of all that practice time, right? You're there, you might as well.
Hell yeah.
Get your licks in. But, a game we thought was going to be a slugfest, Army Cornell. I know when we were calling our games, we thought it was going to be tight, and it ended up being one of the more lopsided games of the weekend, which was a huge surprise on Snapping Towels.
Yeah, Army jumped out to a 7-0 lead. And I kind of thought once it was 5-6-0, I felt as though Cornell was poised for another comeback, similar to how they did against Cuse a week earlier in the Dome. There was no comeback. Army looked phenomenal. I couldn't have been more impressed. Cornell didn't score until halfway through the second quarter. Army just looked so crisp. Their offense was so crisp, dodging hard. Army never settles for anything less than a high quality look, and they just don't beat themselves. So It really just looks so well coached. And if they play like that, they're going to be hard to beat by anybody.
Yeah, I'd have to say they're the Patriot League favorites, the way they've played this season for Definitely. Sure. I think
even though BU is probably going to host, which is crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, hopefully, we'll talk about that later, but Cornell continues to struggle in goal, and it's kind of it's something we didn't see coming on Snapping Towels. We're big fans of Erlin. We had him pegged as the Ivy League goalie of the year, but it's a thing that he keeps getting pulled. Their backup's good too. He had an average day as well. It just seemed like Army's day, Army was the team the whole day. It's similar to Brown Yale. It's kind of one of those things. It's like,
yeah, I think both Cornell and Yale would love to have these respective teams again, because it did kind of feel like the ball was bouncing Army and Brown's way all day.
No, we've been saying that too. Like Virginia Duke, it seemed like the ball was bouncing Duke's way the whole game, and it's kind of like one of those things where, is it bouncing their way, or is it hustle? Is it off the ground? There's always something that can cause the ball momentum that can cause the ball to bounce your way a little more. So
yeah, and Army obviously is never missing, extreme effort or hard play on the ground, but neither is Cornell. So I thought it was going to be a much more of a dogfight. It really wasn't. Army got every 50-50 ball. Army's defense looked amazing. Honestly, kind of reminded me of a Navy defense 2015, 2016. Just big pulls who can really guard, good dodging attackmen. And their defensive midfielders are big, rangy, fast. They don't get beat. And
they got a PLL goaltender in that.
Exactly. Yeah. So Army's it's the real deal down there. I think this is the first time in a while I would feel like Army's had a lot of good teams in the last decade or so. But this is the first time in a while where I feel like, wow, these guys can compete with anyone. Like I really believe Army's that good. So it'll be fun to watch.
Amen. Yeah, that was That was one that took us by surprise on snapping towels, and it won't happen again because we know Army's the real deal. They didn't show up against Lehigh, but they want that game back, and I bet they'll get it back in the Patriot Leagues, depending how that shakes out.
Yeah, no,
so
I
that'd
bet
be
they will.
But the game also that was going to sneak up on us a little bit, or we thought it had the chance, because we're not overlooking any Ivy League opponents anymore. So we thought Harvard, we thought Penn would take care of business, which ended up happening, but Harvard was very much in the game.
Yeah. Harvard's a formidable opponent. The first half was unbelievably physical. Bodies were hitting the floor everywhere at Franklin Field. And Harvard was up at the half 4-3. Goals were really hard to come by in that first half. And then Penn came out just firing in the third quarter. I think they were up 8-4 going into the fourth. So Harvard didn't score in the third quarter. Sam Hanley played attack this game, which I thought was really interesting. Still playing top center on extra man, of course. But having him down in attack, I'm not sure if that was, something that Mike Abbott and Mike Murphy saw as a matchup advantage with a particular poll, or coming off the loss to Brown, kind of in desperation mode,
switching it up. Yeah,
we need our guy in the field at all times. Like, we can't be this is not a game to mess around.
You might as well have him run point. He's got an absolute hammer. He went 4-1 off 9 shots. That's what you need from your All-American. So I thought, I have no problems with him being on the field at all times at this point in the season. Early in the year, it's like, if you have the attackman, you might as well run him out of the box and have him get going downhill. But he still catches the ball around the box with his feet flat and dodges anyway. So
he doesn't care who's guarding him. So I guess it doesn't really matter. It made more sense, definitely as a freshman, coming in as a freshman when Penn's roster was, we still think it's loaded today, but 3 years ago it was absolutely stacked. And to throw him in at the midfield was absurd. And he had a first team All-American midfield campaign as a freshman. But I think at this point, when you're desperate for wins and you're scratching and clawing just to get into the Ivy League tournament, your best player needs to be playing attack.
Yeah, and Penn's goalie, Patrick Birkinshaw, had 20 saves.
Yep. Huge day.
Insane. Huge day. 71%. That's a cheat code. It's like, winning 90% of the faceoffs. It's one of those things that can really lopside a game. And Harvard's this is the first year in a while they've been in games like this. So they've got to kind of take this great young crew they have and kind of mature them a little faster than probably expected. But they're in a lot of good games. So
I think the future is bright in Cambridge. Harvard's got a young roster, bunch of freshmen contributing down on offense, and they're in and winning some of these games, hanging with Penn. Like, they were in this game halfway through the fourth quarter. They tightened it up, and then I think Penn hit literally a 70-yarder on a 10-man. It kind of sealed it. Harvard's no joke. And another team that's no joke in the Ivy League, who has been a punchline for about 15 years now, is Dartmouth.
Dude, I think the Ivy should just have a March Madness full-on tournament. Every team in, give the 1 seed, which I don't even know who it is right now, a bye. And then
if they do that, we're going to have to just change the name of this show to the Ivy League Sports Network. Again, apologies to our listeners, but these teams give us no choice.
Dude, this battling every week. It's like,
it's really insane. Like, don't sleep on Dartmouth. Princeton ended up edging them out 12-10, but
it's like the third ranked team in the country right now. Exactly.
And this was the first game. Like, I've seen bits and pieces of Dartmouth lacrosse this year. I've seen a lot of box scores. I've noticed, hey, they got a win here or there. They hung in this game, which is totally unorthodox given the last 10 to 15 years of production out of Hanover. But this Dartmouth team is pretty good. Like, I don't want to talk too much about Dartmouth tonight, but they've got some really skilled offensive players. They have a stud goalie in Daniel Hinks, and this Fogo Mitchell Myers went off. I think he won 85%. But no, Dartmouth's young. Another team like Harvard. I think the future's bright at Dartmouth. But Princeton took care of business. They edged it out. I think onward and upward from here out for Princeton.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things in the Ivy. Everyone knows each other so well, and the coaches know each other and they recruit in the same pool, and it's an interesting league this year. I think they're really not taking it for granted, whereas other leagues that got to play in COVID last year are kind of like, sometimes they just aren't showing up for games. It's like, maybe have they heard the same thing from the coaches too much? The same message gets monotonous, and it just doesn't hit as hard as it usually does. And the Ivy League message this year is you didn't have lacrosse last year. So they look hungry, and it's a great league, as Cam called week 1. It's an impressive call.
Another team that has taken seemingly no days off this entire year would be the Maryland Terps. I don't know what's going on, what they're eating for breakfast down in College Park. I don't know what is going on, but it's pretty incredible.
Reps is what they're eating.
It's unbelievable, honestly, what they've done. Ohio State kept this game very close. I think they were up 7-4 at one point, pushing in late in the third quarter. It was a 10-11, 11-11 game. And then fourth quarter, nobody turns on the afterburners like the Terps. I mean, absolutely insane. Logan Wisnauskas goes off for 5-2. Donville compliments with 1-3. Maybe one of the most underrated, which is crazy because the Terps are by far the best team in the country right now. But I think it's kind of the least talked about 1-2 punch in the country. I think a lot of their games are on Fox Sports. Not everybody's getting them. A lot of them are blowouts. So not everybody's like really chomping at the bit to watch these Maryland games. But this Donville Wisnauskas combo is disgusting.
Yeah, it's highly skilled action. But it's not them. You always see 11 to 13 guys in their box score. It's never a short box score. It's true. It's the whole cast for me that does it. Cause like Kyle Long's been a first team All-American for a minute now. And like, he might have a quiet game and there's still 14 other guys in the box score and they're blowing someone out. Usually when the team's best midi on paper doesn't have a big game, it's kind of a dogfight. It's an interesting thing. And DeMeo has big games. He's always like in a highlight reel doing something. I saw
DeMeo's nasty.
He shot one from his knees that went top bunk.
Yeah, stung it. Absolutely stung it.
And that kills the defense. You're like, oh wow, I had a good D. This kid's on the ground. He slings it over the goalie's ear. Keegan Khan is a problem too. He's the third attackman. It's up and down the roster. It's a tough cover no matter.
I mean, Bubba Fairman's playing D midi. That's really all you need to know.
And he's not even scoring from the D mid. They have Roman Police pulling up for like 2 a game. And he's like their offensive D midi. It's kind of crazy what they got going on down there. But yeah, Tillman just continues to dominate the transfer pool, and that's what happens. This is a product of guys leaving, having their 5th years and going to Maryland to play for a championship and gelling and buying into a system that's just does not look back. It's just all forward.
Totally. I mean, we had
the Patriots of college lacrosse.
Yep. We've said it before. We had Jonathan Donville on. We had the pleasure of having Jonathan Donville on earlier this year, and we were trying to pull war stories out of him, and it was like you were talking to a Belichick coach guy. He just was talking about next week. All he cared about was next week. And it was just it was very impressive, and it was very apparent that I forget what game we had him in after, but it was a nice.
After Loyola,
big win, smoke Loyola. You could tell he's just thinking we got bigger fish to fry. So pretty special what's going on in College Park. Maybe later we can talk about a couple teams that might actually give Maryland a run for their money, but right now that's been absolutely nobody.
And honestly, like, I don't know. I mean, any given Sunday,
I have a couple rosters in mind.
Yeah, sure. You could say like, Georgetown, Princeton. There's obviously teams that can give them a run. Duke.
Duke's not even in it for me.
But goddamn, I think Duke, if they have a game like they did against Virginia, why not? I mean, that was like lightning striked and Adler went crazy, and we don't want to get too much on the riff sesh right now, but I think they have the talent if they play. Like we said, week 1 or week 4. Once we saw what was going on here, you have to have a perfect game to be in it with Maryland at the end. Ohio State probably thought they had a bite. They had them by the ropes.
They did.
They're throwing haymakers, but then you blink in the fourth quarter and you're down 5.
Yeah.
And they have a stud goalie in defense. So you're like, oh, where are we going to get these 5 goals from? It's kind of like Ohio State never knew when they were going to score. Maryland knew they had a good chance of scoring every time they're on offense, which is the difference.
We talked about it. I think we talked about it after Maryland played Notre Dame, which or
Virginia.
But it was particularly after the Notre Dame game, which actually was one of maybe Maryland's closest game this year. It just felt like Maryland always generates a high quality look, and they know it, right? They're going down and they know what they're running. There's no uncertainty. There's no somebody standing around watching Wisnauskas try to go to work or somebody else. Like it's just, it's a symphony,
well-oiled machine. Yeah. And they finished with Hopkins. And so, that's looking like an undefeated season for Maryland. They were the regular season Big Ten champs. Notre Dame was their closest game. It was a 2-goal game, but I think Notre Dame pumped a couple in at the end to make it look closer than it was, if I can remember correctly.
Yeah, I think they'll make quick work of Hopkins. Honestly, I don't want to denigrate these other Big Ten teams or these particular years in the Patriot League, but it kind of feels like sometime, like some of those years when Loyola won the Patriot, like the Patriot League regular season title. It just, it wasn't even.
It's not really going to be a conversation.
It wasn't even a big deal.
I mean, it's always something you want to do. Yeah, early when Loyola joined the Patriot League, it was Patriot League win or a busted season. It wasn't like, let's try to make it to the tournament for the Patriot League and see what happens. It was always, let's host this thing and then let's
take care of business,
win. But yeah, it's not like that anymore from the Hounds. I'm sure we'll get into that later in the riff sesh. But before we get there, let's hammer Cuse UNC because that was kind of a dogfight with a electric ending from a player that had I'm really happy to see Chris Gray stick the game winner with 5 seconds left, even though we're big Orange fans on the podcast and feel bad for our dear friend Brandon Curry. But Chris Gray's had a tough season as a senior all-star, all-American, Twarton finalist. Really hasn't been in the spotlight because of UNC's woes on defense and offense. So for him to stick that shot, it just had to feel so nice for him. I give him a Jeter respect for that one.
It was a cool scene. Chris Gray is a special player. He's one of the best tackmen we've both seen in a decade or so. For him to have that game winner was really cool. And on the broadcast, just to paint a little picture, Cuse staged an epic comeback in the fourth quarter. Brendan Curry and Tucker Dordovic took over the game with some highlight reel plays. UNC had a high hit, a 2-minute non-releasable penalty. Cuse took advantage, scored 2 goals on that non-releasable, and then a goal right after on a fast break. Came back all the way down from, I think, 5 goals. Took the lead with 2 minutes left. Brendan Curry stuck one, took the lead with 2 minutes left. UNC tied it up with a minute left. Cuse was doing a really good job of denying Chris Gray the ball in those last 3 or 4 possessions. And as the time was winding down, Carcaterra said, UNC has Chris Gray. He just said, UNC has Chris Gray. So anything can happen. Next thing you know,
goddamn,
there's 15 seconds left and UNC gets 2 Cuse pulls in a pick situation behind. They both follow the ball carrier. Nobody stays on Chris Gray. Chris Gray is butt naked at X, gets hit with a little pull pass, comes around, sticks a classic Chris Gray ! Goal to take the lead with 15 seconds left. Storybook ending. Really cool. Disappointing to see the Cuse comeback fall short. North Carolina has put themselves in a position where if they beat Notre Dame this Thursday, I think they get in the NCAA tournament. So that goal,
it was big.
Saved their season.
If they lose to Cuse,
they're out.
You said a terrible season. They're out.
They're out.
It's kind of been the heartbreak kids for Syracuse. A lot of talent, a lot of injuries offensively. If any other team in the ACC lost their third and fourth and fifth scorer offensively, they'd be in trouble, just like Cuse losing these heartbreakers. Cuse just shoots themselves in the foot all the time, though. So it's like, again, you feel bad. They have terrible, like, pulls in terms of the clearing game, in terms of communicate. It just seems like a cluster down on the defensive end. They had goalie switches the whole season. Like, there's just no one cementing themselves for Syracuse defensively this season.
It's been musical chairs on the defensive end for the Orange. Definitely disappointing to see. They're also not quite as deep as I think we would like them to be on offense. The Owen Hiltz loss was massive.
This team would be a whole nother team with him in the mix. He's like a 60 goal scorer.
He's a big time player down there at attack. Also, the loss of Cook halfway through the season was a big loss.
The injury list is outrageous. Something
it's
Syracuse really hasn't seen in a while. And honestly, you just hate to see from a team that needs everyone to be there, because last year they had everyone and they still didn't produce as well as people thought they were going to. But on a different note, I thought UNC had to switch it up, and they did. They were stale and everyone knew it, and their offense wasn't generating any kind of good looks repeatedly in games, which was really putting them in bad situations. And we had talked about on Snapping Towels that, great finisher, great attackman, Pat Kelly, gets kind of held in check, doesn't dodge pulls, and just finishes when he gets ridiculous feeds from Chris Gray. But, he can clearly dodge. So I thought Dave Metzbauer did a great thing, put in a big time recruit, Dewey Egan. Yeah. And he had a great game filling in for Kelly, and then Kelly was running out of the midfield, kind of dodging slides.
He also gave Nicky Solomon some runs out of the midfield, which I really just think kind of let them both breathe a little bit. Just like
to Kyle's point, get a shorty, go behind with the shorty. It's just too many, it's too stale.
Yeah, so I think that was a great move, an excellent coaching move by the UNC coaching staff, Metzbauer in particular. This was desperation mode. They needed this win. The season's over if you lose at home on senior day to Cuse. Season's over.
Yeah.
And to throw in a wrinkle like that, I think was the difference in the game. It spark plugged UNC's offense, and also just kind of gives them a look moving forward. Right, a little wrinkle that makes UNC a little bit more difficult to defend. It's not as Chris Gray centric. I think that could prove to be an interesting adjustment moving forward. I think this Notre Dame UNC game on Thursday is going to be electric. Like, I think it's the season's still on the line for both teams. It's going to be a lot of fun.
All right, let's hit the top performers. Cam, who jumped off the page from your eyes this weekend?
I got to give love. I mentioned it earlier, but I got to give a lot of love to Trevor Glavin, Brown's fourth attackman. I think oftentimes our top performers are goalies with 20 saves or some attackmen that had 6 and 3. But this kid comes in, biggest game of the season, biggest game of his life, right? He's the fourth attackman coming in against a top 5 Yale team, season on the line. Filling in for a star attackman, Darian Cook. This kid has 2 and 2. At these 4 points came at big times in the game. Really a season-changing win for the Bears. Puts them right in the mix for the Ivy League tournament and the NCAA tournament as well. Got to give love to a fourth attackman coming off the bench and doing his thing.
I love that. I love a guy taking control of his opportunity, as we saw Jack Taylor for Notre Dame a couple weeks ago.
Yes, sir.
As my top performer. Same kind of situation. I'm going with our guy Mike Adler, not just because he was on the show giving us a lot of good insight, but
that didn't hurt though,
because he showed up against the Who's, which is, they've got lethal shooters. He stumped a lot of their kids. Griffin Schultz, Ofer, Cormier, Ofer, Connor Schellenberger, Ofer. It's just like you hold their top 3 shooters pretty much and playmakers to 0 goals, you're gonna have a big win. And that's what he did right when they needed it against a steaming hot Virginia team. Fully healthy too.
Crazy how many seasons were on the line this past weekend.
Because it's been insane.
Yeah,
so
Duke was one of them.
Losing.
I mean, Duke really couldn't. Duke kind of had to win that game.
Yeah.
So yeah,
no,
hats off to Adler.
It was nuts. Breaking news: Riff Sash.
Another goalie. More goalie news. Just so much goalie love on Snapping Towels.
Player of the week last week for Kyle. Cam, tell us the story.
Brett Dobson, he's a junior goaltender for the St. Bonaventure Bonnies. Did he have 23 saves last week? How many saves was it? Something obscene like that.
I believe it was 23. I'm going to stat check that while you get the story going.
Coming off another monster game in a losing effort to Siena. They lost 14-11. He had 17 saves. He announced that he is going pro. He's entering the PLL draft after his junior season. I believe, aside from some kids who may have gotten kicked out of school or kicked off their team, he's the first person to elect to enter the PLL or MLL draft early. So this is a monumental. Yeah, go ahead.
He had 21 saves in the stalemate versus Monmouth that we were highlighting last week.
The absolute rock fight in Monmouth, New Jersey.
Because of the attending. Give us his quote.
I'm pulling it up right now. But honestly, Kyle, like this is kind of a monumental.
I love it, dude.
This is monumental for the game of lacrosse. It's never happened before.
It's showing where the pro game is going. Kinda. Like, I don't see this happening again. It might be that.
Not that it won't happen again. I just don't think it's going to be common.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to be common.
Yeah. Who is the first
quote? This is his quote. I'm planning on entering the draft this summer for the PLL. I see the writing on the wall right now. There's 3 or 4 goalie spots open right now. And once you get one of those, it's hard to come by. The opportunity's there to play lacrosse at the next level and be able to do it and play professionally. Those are your hopes and dreams. Why not take it right away? A little background on Brett Dobson. He is Canadian. He was the U19 Canadian goalie. He's one of the better goaltenders in Division I lacrosse this year. He definitely has at least one NIL deal. And he has his own goalie company. It is called.
This guy's an entrepreneur. We gotta get him on.
Brett Dobson, founder of BD45 Goaltending.
I love
this kid's got an eye for business. He knows what he wants, and he's clearly an elite goaltender. And I really agree with what he said. You know, these professional goaltender spots, it's almost like an NFL quarterback, right? They're not just opening up every year like, you know, you can be the quarterback of the Patriots every 2 years. Like, no, these goaltenders that stay in the league, they're there for the good ones are there for 6 to 10 years, right? They're in their
proven spot. Yeah, no, it's hard.
If he sees guys retiring, you know, this is my time to do it.
I love it. I love him taking a shot. He's pulling a Reggie Harding, which is the first NBA player drafted out of high school to the NBA.
Love that.
So I think he's a renaissance man. I think he's a trailblazer, and it's not going to happen often. And I think it's kind of a cool kind of one-off that is something we're fortunate enough to talk about. I mean, I'd have to assume he's got to be on Snapping Towels.
We have to I think we have to promise our listeners that in the next 7 weeks he's on Snapping Towels.
Might need to come faster than that. We might need back-to-back goalies on.
Yeah.
After this news, this is big time.
That's true. That's true. And also another thing, I think he's probably got the Team Canada goalie spot in his sights. And what better way to prepare yourself for a World Games or for Team Canada tryouts than to see pro rubber? I don't want to denigrate the shooters at the Bonnies or the shooters in their conference, but if he wants to be a Team Canada goalkeeper, you know, we said last week, he reminds us a little bit of Dylan Ward, a little bit in his stature and style of play.
Yeah, super quick. No,
yep.
I mean, dude, this is cool. And I love a kid putting his money, putting the chips on himself. You can't love a guy who's passionate about the game enough that he'd leave college, because a lot of kids are comfortable. No one's gonna threaten him for his job at St. Bonnie. He's gonna come back, be a senior, be an All-American probably, but he's like, you know what? I see a good opportunity right now for my future, and I'm taking it. And I think as the pro game progresses, you might see it more often, especially maybe with these specialized positions.
I agree. And also I think what also might be contributing to that is the extremely strong goalie class coming out into the PLL this year. And to his point, hey, like these spots are open right now. You know, these other kids are going to get drafted this summer. If he's not in that draft, if he's not in the mix, some of these kids are good enough to be
hold them down.
That stalwart PLL goaltender. So I think he's kind of seeing it as, look, it's now or never. I'm trying to pull it up. There was a mock goalie. There was a goalie ranking.
Yeah, I got it. It was Adler, Brett Dobson. What's up?
Said shout out Adler.
Yeah, Owen McElroy. Owen McElroy was first, who's first team All-American last year. Will be a first team All-American this year as well, I'd imagine. Brendan Curbs, goalie from Manhattan. Is
that the Manhattan kid?
Yeah, he was 2. Colin Kurse, fan favorite on Snapping Towels, the Ruckers between the pipes. His whole family plays lacrosse. Brett Dobson, our guy who's pulling in, he's 4th. So he's doing this not even being the number 1 ranked kid in the class. So
but again, think about those other kids. Like if he's not in the mix this year and those kids lock it down.
Wyatt Schupler's 5th, the Army goalie, who's
really
good stud as well. So yeah, I mean, if he's taking a shot, I mean, it depends who drafts him. And honestly, like aside from Blaze Buffalino, I don't see a lot of goalies really like having cemented jobs. Like Troutner, decent year. It's kind of like it's interesting to see. I don't know, like Troutner, Atlas have Jack Concannon. He was injured for a lot of the season. There's definitely backup positions in the league, and I think why not try some young blood if you need a lot of these guys can get shelled any given week. So if he gets thrown in and he kind of makes a name for himself and has a bunch of stops, I see it being no problem him staying in the league for sure.
I'm here for Dobson making the jump. I love it. You can always go back and get your degree. Am I right?
Amen. The Bonnies will take him back for his last year. But hit me with some tournament scenarios, because it's something we talk about a lot. It's something that's going to be interesting. Do the Ivies get 4? Do they get 5? Does the ACC get 3, 2? The Patriot League is getting Juan. That's a fact. But it's
here's the thing.
The
Kyle.
Big East is going to get 1.
Here's the thing
as well.
Here's the thing. Those
two
Patriot League
might get 2.
Those 2 conferences do get 1 if they go as planned. Okay, I think the Ivy does. I think the Ivy does get 5 if everything goes as planned, which is why I don't think the Ivy gets 5. Because some conference, there's going to be an upset somewhere.
Yeah,
it's been too wacky a year.
Yeah,
there have been too many unusual
do
results.
The Terps get upset in the Big Ten?
The Patriots are not losing to the Dolphins, Jets, or the Bills of old. Like that's not happening.
The Jets have been in some Eastern American East Patriot battles.
AFC.
Oh yeah, AFC. I've been in Lax World too long. American East, yeah. It's not fall yet. All right.
Yeah, so I don't think so. I do think there is a conference that doesn't end up going as planned, but I don't think the Big Ten is that conference. I think you're either going to be looking at the Patriot League, the Big East, or the SoCon.
So if Army wins, okay, let's talk about the Patriot League. If Army wins,
if Army wins, I don't think any other team gets in.
Gets
like,
in.
BU
might. They might.
Yeah, but I don't think they're going to. Like, BU
That's-
got smoked by Yale. Smoked by they lost to Harvard.
Yeah, fuck them.
And
they're not going to get
Princeton.
in.
They're 0-3 against the Ivy League. What do you know? They have 3 losses: Princeton, Yale, and Harvard.
Yeah.
So if they don't win, they're not in. Lehigh just shot themselves in the foot of any tournament aspirations. Sorry, with their loss up in Hamilton, New York this weekend to the Colgate Raiders. Shout out. Their only path is winning the Patriot League tournament, which I don't think they're going to do because they're not beating Army twice. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
Loyola is the dangerous team in the Patriot League, right?
They're the dangerous team, yeah.
They own the Patriot League. Aside from Army, they have the best roster. Loyola's been there, done that. So if Loyola wins the Patriot League tournament, to me, that's the only way that the Patriot League gets more than one team. The other conference I have my eye on that might mess things up for a 5-team Ivy League bid is the SoCon. Jacksonville.
And honestly, I'm down for that. I'm down for 4 Ivies and 2 SoCons.
So
I want to see a SoCon in the tournament, mixing it up.
Yeah.
We saw Richmond beat Virginia. We saw Jacksonville beat Duke, then Denver, then Air Force in a tight window. These guys can play on a quick turnaround. Their teams are stacked with transfers and old guys that have been around top programs. Why not?
Yeah, no. So I couldn't agree more. Like, as much as on the Ivy League as I've been this whole season, which I'm sure our listeners are just so fed up with. If you don't make your conference tournament, I know the Ivy League is by far the best league in the country, and I do believe that
you shouldn't be in the tournament.
Yeah, I do believe that the 5th team in the Ivy League could make noise in the NCAA tournament, but I'm sorry. If you didn't make the top 4 in your conference, you don't get to get in.
Do they have a playing game in the Ivy, or is it just top 4?
No, it's just top 4.
4-1, 3-2.
It's top 4. I'd like to
Loyola's
see Jacksonville.
Loyola's looking at that Tuesday game.
Yeah, but like they'll probably play
somebody.
Yeah, but all right. This is who they're going to play. The Colgate Raiders are not mathematically eliminated from the Patriot League tournament. They'll probably play Colgate. Wait,
that'll be in Maryland.
4, 5, 6.
They're
they're gonna play Bucknell.
Okay, they're gonna have Bucknell again, which they did. They made quick work of them at home, but still, we've been talking about Bucknell, not sleeping on them.
Bucknell,
and you don't want to see Bucknell in the tournament.
I think you'd rather see Navy. So
for sure,
Navy. So just to retract that. Navy and Bucknell play the last game of the year. So Loyola will probably play the loser of that game.
The
Loyola winner? The loser.
The winner's going to be in the top 4.
The loser's going to be the number 6.
Okay. Interesting. But
so there's actually a little bit of jockeying still left for the 3 and 4 spot. Anyway, Loyola to me is the team that could mess it up for.
Loyola still has to play Lehigh and Colgate, and luckily they don't have to go to godforsaken Bethlehem, but they will have to travel to upstate New York and stay at those bunk ass cabins they put them in up there. But
White Eagle.
The White Eagle.
Great spot. Yeah. So I would like to see 4 Ivies, and I would really like it if 2 SoCons got in. That would be fun. To me, I think there are going to be 3 ACC teams. Virginia's going to get in. Duke's going to get in. And to me, I think the winner of the Thursday game this week, Notre Dame UNC, gets in. So I think there are going to be 3 ACC teams. And then you look at the Big Ten. After Maryland and Rutgers, I don't think any of them deserve to get in. Like I like what Ohio State's done this year. They're 8-4. Obviously, the shellacking of UNC. They beat Harvard.
If they beat Rutgers in the tournament, though, like because It's gonna be Maryland, Rutgers.
You're right. I spoke too soon. The Big Ten tournament's gonna mean a lot. But they got
it's gonna be
absolutely
Maryland,
housed
Rutgers. Maryland, Rutgers. Yeah, Rutgers just beat Michigan by 1. Michigan's had a good year, but that's not a convincing win against a low conference team. It's gonna be Maryland, Rutgers, Ohio State. 4th team, what? Michigan?
No, Hopkins.
Oh, Hopkins. Yeah, right. Damn, forgot about that. So that'd be a great game, Maryland Hopkins, for that first round. I mean, Maryland. No, it's not gonna be a great game. Historically, it's been an entertaining game, and there's a lot of pride on the line. The rivalry's there, but yeah, we won't talk about that right now. But then in that 2-3 game, it's gonna be a dogfight.
Yeah,
believe it.
It will be. Yeah, I agree.
Where's that tournament being held again? Because it doesn't go to the.
I know. I'm pretty sure it's in College Park.
What?
Yeah.
It's in College Park. Yeah, it is. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's
just backyard games for the Terps.
Just a fucking cherry on top for Maryland to go undefeated and then host. They're gonna play Hopkins back to back. They play Hopkins last game of the year, and then they're gonna play him. They're gonna play him in the semifinals, and then
no issue there.
Yeah. So it's an interesting debate. This tournament action. I think there's going to be a lot to talk about in these next 2 weeks because it's the last 2 weeks of the regular season. Some teams have 3 games left. Some teams have 1. I think the money spot's 2. I think most teams have 2, but it's coming down to it.
Yeah, so, one thing before we move on from the tournament implications, my Delaware Blue Hens are lining up for a CAA title run and an NCAA tournament berth, and I don't think you want to see the Blue Hens in May. That's all I have to say.
I saw a greasy 1-goal win over Towson, so don't pencil them in to win the CAA tournament at all. And if they don't win the CAA tournament, nobody will be seeing Delaware in the first round of the NCAA.
That's true.
So no one has to be nervous.
I think I might have to resign from snapping towels if Delaware doesn't make it. But anyway, yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I think the Terps are just a cut above the rest right now, and really anxious to see how the Ivy League shakes out. I'll be really eating my words if only 4 teams from the Ivy League get in and Penn ends up being the number 5 team in the Ivy League, which is quite possible at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. But, all this stems from play and who shows up on Saturday. UNC at Notre Dame. Who do you got?
I'm taking Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's coming into form. I think Notre Dame's attack is going to make light work of UNC's close defense. And I think Liam Eneman's going to have a big game.
Yeah, I'm going to ride with you there. I like Notre Dame. Liam Eneman hopefully comes on the pod after that game. Kind of a superstitious fellow. We got to talk to him all about it. A little preview of what could come. But we also need Brett Dobson. It could be a double. It could be a 2-headed dragon.
I was going to say that earlier. I didn't want to jinx it.
Let's do the 2.
Could have 2 goalies on.
Let's do a 2-headed dragon for the podcast, 2 goalies. Now I'm going to Notre Dame as well. They're ridiculously deep on offense. I think they're starting to find their rhythm. And defensively, I think they'll be all right with Eneman and Cage. But another dogfight of a crazy conference, Cornell Brown. This it could be 20-10, it could be 11-10, who knows. So
I think it's gonna be a freaking slugfest.
That's what we pray for on
No, I really do. I think it's gonna be a slugfest. We hope guys
show up.
This Brown team, I don't think they're quite as talented as the top of the Ivy League, but from what I saw from them the last 2 weeks, yeah, these kids are coming ready to play. They're coming ready to play.
Cornell is too after that game against Army. So
yes, sir. I'm going with Cornell. I'm going with Brown. In a very close game.
I'm going Brown. I'm going the Bears. I think it's tougher going on the road, especially going into a team that just got, hung out to dry in a way.
Blacked by the Army
Embarrassed.
Black Knights.
Exactly. I'm going Brown. I'm saying the keeper continues his great play, and this new midfield resurgence from Brown really shows up.
Be interesting to see if Darian Cook plays.
I hope. We
Yeah,
hate injuries on snapping towels.
Of course.
Richmond at High Point. SoCon battle this is a big one,
Yeah, this is a big one. The winner of this, I mean, it's kind of all premature because all these, aside from the ACC, all these teams have their conference tournament ahead of them.
So whack that ACC doesn't do a conference tournament.
This is a huge game for if the SoCon gets 2 in. This game means a lot. I'm taking High Point. I think High Point's got slightly better personnel. I'm taking the Asher Nolting, Braden Maia, and the Maryland transfer's name is escaping me right now. Their third attackman.
Jack Sawyer.
You're exactly right. I'm taking those 3 to lead High Point to a massive SoCon W.
Love that, but I'm taking the Spiders. They're going to be ready to go.
Dalton
Young's our guy, the quarterback. Can't shoot low to high, though. Chamati won't let him do it. I'm taking the fundamentals from the Richmond Spiders, going to High Point, getting a win, which isn't easy to do in their stadium. They took a lot of good teams down to the wire in that stadium.
The country club. You better believe it.
It is a country club. Back to the Ivy like we do most of the weeks. Harvard, Princeton. We're going to Cambridge. Who do you got?
I'm taking the Princeton Tigers. I think they got kind of slightly awakened last week in their too close for comfort win over the Dartmouth Big Green. Again, I think Harvard is a year or 2 away from being extremely good. This Princeton team has huge aspirations.
Yep. Yeah, this is their year.
Princeton wins by 5 or 6 goals.
I'll take Princeton as well. I think it's going to be a runaway as well. But Harvard has a lot of good young guys. They shot terribly last week in a close game versus Penn. So honestly, I don't find us here surprised if this is a burner that Harvard like kind of edges out. If Princeton,
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
If Princeton
I think Dartmouth
doesn't show
could beat
up.
anybody.
Yeah, that's a stretch, but
yeah, no, wouldn't be surprised at all. Moving into the Patriot League, also known as the Ivy Reject League, BU at Lehigh.
I'm going BU. I was impressed with the way they handled Loyola. Loyola continues to sadden me with their play. It seems like, they're kind of hanging their hats on a somewhat successful season last year and a little bit of a deep run in the playoffs. For some reason, I think it's a little bit of the same message they're hearing, and it's kind of getting stale, it seems, especially offensively. I think there's no kind of, now I'm going off on a Loyola tangent about how they're killing my heart.
Part of the quick pick, Kyle. It's not even a part of the quick pick.
No, but it has to be said. It wasn't goaltending. It wasn't anything. It was BU's persistence. They didn't stop. I'm going BU to go into Lehigh and get a win and continue this roll they're on.
I'm taking BU as well. I think that would make them finish their season undefeated in the Patriot League.
God damn.
Which is an impressive feat. Patriot League is a good level of ball. They will be, apologies, I retract that statement. They will be, after they win this game, they will in fact be 7-0 in the Patriot League, but they finish their season hosting Army. So that will be an absolute showdown. That'll be actually the decider for hosting the Patriot League tournament. But I think BU beats Lehigh. I watched Lehigh play Colgate this past week. I think Lehigh is limited as to what they can do on offense. They don't generate a ton of looks out of the midfield. I think BU outscores.
BU is white hot right now.
Yep. Virginia Cuse.
Ooh, I mean, I'm going with UVA after, back-to-back champs coming. They're not going to drop one in the ACC. If they do, it'll be a real tank to their seeding in the tournament. I think it could take them from a top 5 seed to bottom seed for sure, which they don't care about going into play a big time team. They don't care. It's just one of those games you want to get back on the right foot on the way you're playing ball. And you can't expect the three top pretty much producing players, Griffin Schultz, Connor Schellenberger, and the Oxville Ox, to go over on like
it's not happening ever again.
Shots.
It's not happening ever again. It's worth noting that these Q seniors, this is their second to last game ever in the Dome. So it's not senior day yet. But
is the Dome being taken down? It's not the Dome. Yeah, it is.
All right. That's big time news to me. That really shook me. I hope you're wrong and I hope I'm right, but I'm going with UVA here. I think UVA has too many guns for this fight to not come away with this win, especially after getting absolutely smoked by Duke. UVA is they're a little bit on thin ice here, right? They don't want to lose to Cuse. Cuse is having a poor year. Can't have that. I'm going UVA.
It is getting changed.
It's getting
after 40 years.
What's happening?
Being named after an air conditioning company. It is being
okay. All right.
renamed.
They're not taking it down.
Yeah, but it's not going to be called the Carrier Dome anymore.
Okay. Which is unfortunate, similar to how the Staples Center is now called Crypto.com Arena. No one's ever not going to call this.
It's called like the Sportico.
So no one,
the JMA.
As I was saying, nobody's ever not going to call the Staples Center the Staples Center, and nobody's ever not going to call.
Dude, out here in LA, people call it crypto.
Oh, that's blasphemous. It's the Carrier Dome, always and forever.
Yeah. Anyways, back to the pick. Sorry to just throw that one in there, but
I took UVA. But Kyle, what I really want to hear is who's your marquee matchup for the weekend?
I like Brown Cornell. I think it's a really interesting game off last week with Cornell getting skunked by Army. Brown going to their spot. It's got big Ivy League implications. What a tongue twister on the line. And I think, Brown's coming out with the win. Stay hot.
That'd be fun. I think Cornell's going to win the game, as I discussed in the quick picks. But it's going to be a hell of a game. They're both teams desperate for a W. Cornell coming off just getting absolutely smoked. And if Brown,
it's a safe bet.
If Brown wins this game, that will be the most impressive 3-game stretch, in my opinion, of any team in the country
this year.
Penn, Yale, Cornell.
Yeah, it's big in league play. Who do you got?
If Brown wins that game, I think they cement themselves in the NCAA tournament.
Maybe with a home game.
I have UNC Notre Dame.
Yeah, that should be fireworks. I mean,
Thursday night, baby. Dude, Thursday night lax.
God damn. Yeah.
A lot on the line in that game. You got pretty much all you can ask for, right? You got
2 Torrent finalists.
Exactly. You got Chris Gray.
2 young goaltenders that are white hot.
Yeah. Chris Gray, who's did he eclipse Lyle Thompson yet?
Ooh, that's a great question.
He either just did or is about to eclipse Lyle Thompson and become the all-time leading point scorer in Division I history. You have a stacked Notre Dame offense, which has been disjointed at times this year, but when they are gelling, they are a pleasure to watch. Liam Eneman between the pipes is an absolute stud. I think he'll be one of those PLL goaltenders soon in the next few years that we've been speaking about. He's that type of goaltender. Be really interesting game. Can't wait to watch it.
I love it. Well, Cam, that was a firing episode. Mike Adler, thanks for joining us. We had a lot to talk about this week, and I'm excited to see how these games break down and be able to talk about it next week with you.
Cheers, mate.
As always.